Okay, there's one right here, yeah. And then you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Cool. And then we could all share one. Yeah.
Are you all ready? Thanks everyone for being here. I'm Stephanie, the director here at the gallery. In the back here, you have Linda Cunningham. She's co-founder of Bronxartspace. So I just wanted to introduce. Oh gosh. I just wanted to introduce Kiara briefly. So this show, actually last December, we put out an open call for curatorial proposals for emerging Bronx curators, and Kiara applied and has actually had a really great relationship with the gallery for the last year. So we were really excited to see her application, and we're blown away by the talent and the work of the artist she chose. So we're grateful to have her here. And I just wanted to let you know a little bit about the programs coming up. She's put together a really great calendar. This Saturday's workshop is being postponed, so the next public program will be the Spicy film screening and discussion for QTPOC, and Caseena, Karim, who is here, is organizing that event. So I hope you guys can come out. She was just telling me there are going to be a lot of artists. There are going to be performances, screenings, and a really rich discussion afterwards. So I hope you come back to the space. If you're new, welcome. If you're old, nice to see you again. Yeah.
So let me tell you guys about why I thought of having this panel discussion and how it stems into the influence behind this show. So if you were here during the opening reception, I kind of talked about this. So while I was putting together the proposal, basically I was influenced by how many artists and women of color are creating a safe space in the virtual world, and even have that intertwined in their work, and even promote themselves through Instagram, social media, and how that self-representation really just communicates to other women about self-representation, just spreads those positive vibes. So I wanted to talk about that, basically how the virtual world has influenced them as an artist, how has it been ingrained in their career, how does it help with their self-representation, how is it in their work, and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's talk about that. And if everyone could briefly introduce themselves, that'd be nice.
Hello you guys. I'm Jheyda
I'm sorry. Can everyone say their preferred pronouns too?
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm Jheyda McGarrell, and I go by she, they. I'm a photographer and multimedia artist, and I am a curator and creative with Art Ho Collective and a student at NYU.
Would you also point out which work is yours in the show?
Mine is that on the front left.
Okay.
The black and white pieces.
Cass, or Caseena Karim, that's my full name, but you can call me Cass. My work is right there on the little ass screen, but I think it was cool to have it in the show, and also I guess I sort of use the internet a lot in my videos, especially the ones in the show. So I'm glad that I'm here for the talk. My pronouns are she, her, they, them, he, anything. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hi, I'm RAFiA, and that's my piece is. It's just several pieces looped after another. I'm a Brooklyn-based artist, and what were we supposed to answer? I already trailed off. Just what I do, I'm on the internet a lot. That's it. But I mean, so a lot of my work just comes from that, and it has influenced how I present my work greatly. So I'll just pass it on.
Hi, I'm Monica Hernandez. Those are my paintings right there, that one and that one. And yeah, I am very active on the internet, have been for a couple years, and I think that feeds into my work as well, and pronouns she, her.
Oh, that's what I didn't.
Wait, what are they?
She, her, they, whatever I'm in the mood for that day.
I feel like it's one of those sticks that they pass around in school, you know? Popcorn. All right, so just a basic question, like how would you describe your work in general? Yeah, I don't want to say like, I feel like as artists, that question gets thrown at artists so many times, and I think it might be a question that's just like, it's like a lot of things maybe, I don't know, it depends, but yeah, just in general, how would you describe your work? You don't have to go into it if you don't want to, but yeah.
I probably would describe my work in like a lot of manners because I kind of go back and forth between like documentary and like conceptual, like more fine art type of photography. But most of my work is just like self-reflection and focused around the different spaces that I am a part of in like my body. And a lot of my work most recently has been about like mental health, but not in a way where it's just about mental health, in a way where it's about the day-to-day struggles of being a person of color and being oppressed, but also about how it affects and influences our mental health and like the different mental states that we experience when we're experiencing oppression and when we are just like living in our own bodies and having our own thoughts. And so most of my work is just like about myself and like my family, what influences me, what I like, what I don't like, you know. But I want mainly through my work to be able to process the different processes that I am a part of, and to be able to like decolonize anything like negative or any really bad like colonized thinking that I might have, or any relation to time or memories or expectations, standards that I might have based on the systems that I've grown up with and like the systems which we're forced to see people of color and our bodies through. And that's what my work is about.
I don't know, it's really hard to describe my work. I think it's, like you said, a question that I get asked a lot, but I never know exactly what to say. I would say that my pieces are like video performance pieces. I really want to like push what it means to have like a video, a film, a performance, animation, music in that. I think a lot of that is happening right now within like the art world, whether it's like with Jacoby Satterwhite's work or Sandra Perry. And then in the music world with like Brockhampton, for example, I kind of want to make 40 pieces that maybe like look like a video, but they have like so many different functions within them, and those different layers like all relate to the different layers of my identity, which is kind of hard to like just state out loud. So I think it really provides us like a good metaphor, and I think that's pretty much it.
My work is about just kind of the things that I be thinking about sometimes. And so it's like just kind of a range. I just be thinking a lot. But well, I guess I'll go over like what's up here. Just like I go through like anxieties and depressions and things like that. So there's a lot of that. Sometimes it's about sex. Sometimes I'm just making jokes. I like sort of meme thoughts. But so I've made a few memes. I don't make a career out of it yet. That'd be dope. I hear the money's good. Yeah, there's the dicks. I thought that was funny. I just made that for fun, and I like put it on Tumblr, and then like I don't know whatever that art website was, I would like put it up as like not safe for work gifts, and so I was I make that one's also about sex too. That looks it's weird. It's more like fetishy. Just because I was like, I had toes, right? Right? But then also it kind of looks like there's like a vagina in like my midsection there. So I'm just like, I don't know, I like making weird stuff. I do also photography. I do kind of like whatever I get my hands on, so like it's just like whatever I'm in the mood for at that time. So the photography is kind of more still usually, but I like to play a lot in Photoshop. And so I'm just making stuff that like entertains me for the most part.
Right now I'm making paintings. I used to do photography and video, but I find that I always go back to painting because I think I like to torture myself. Because I feel like photography and video is definitely more direct, and I think I'm able to say exactly what I'm feeling and like use my body to access what it is I want to access, but I always go back to painting for some reason. And I think within my paintings I try to create a world or deal with the ambiguities of my identity in a way in which I can kind of access all the things that I maybe have repressed or deal with on a daily basis that I don't necessarily acknowledge, or I don't know. I just try to create these worlds that make sense to me. I think being born in the Dominican Republic, moving here at the age of 6, I didn't feel necessarily planted there, but I don't necessarily feel planted here. And then because of, I'm light-skinned, so depending on the space that I'm in, I can be perceived to be many things. So growing up, I was always very confused as to what I was in a way in which I felt excluded from multiple communities. So I think through my work right now, I just try to create these spaces where different characters can literally do whatever they want to do. They can indulge, they can cut their hair, they can eat, they can do whatever they want. And through that, I also find that I am accessing a lot of things that I think I repressed. So even just the palette, looking like the homes that I grew up in the Dominican Republic. So I think it's just kind of trying to recreate certain narratives that I've evaded and also create new narratives and just, I don't know, have fun. And also they're funny and weird and I don't know. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. It's so nice to see you guys in person. So how has the virtual world influenced your work? How has it influenced you as a person, right now, today? How have you grown through it? And how has it, influenced your work in any way? Yeah.
Well, I have, a really interesting relationship with the internet just because...
Are you trying to get off of it?
Basically, when I started using the internet, it's because I grew up in the suburbs, and my mom is from Mexico, and my dad is black, so everyone used to make fun of me, and just no one in my school liked me because everyone was white, and they used to say crazy racist things about my parents, and everyone, even the black kids, were you're not even actually black, and so I just turned to the internet in search of a place to be well, what am I if I'm not black, I'm not Latino, I'm not allowed to be anything. So I just wanted to have my own safe space. But now it's we're in the future and I'm oh well, that was nice, but now I feel sometimes the internet really brings me a lot of pain and discomfort. Even though I think it's a really good tool to, I'm so thankful for the internet because it's given me so many opportunities and I've met so many friends and, I still love it because I'm oh, I can see what my family in Mexico is doing. I can see, what my cousins are doing. I can promote my art, but at the same time, I feel it really perpetuates a lot of negativity because you don't get a complete narrative of people's lives, even if they try really hard to be honest. You don't really get a full vision of what people are going through. And I think in a way it has affected me because I'm just really obsessed with tangibility and being honest in a tangible way, which this is my photo book right here, and I made it just because I was so overwhelmed with the internet and feeling I was 19 and I felt so behind and I haven't done anything and I haven't accomplished anything. So then I was well, I'm just gonna give life to a body of works that I have been working on and feel I've done something instead of just feeling another post, another just whoosh, in the ether. So I'm glad that the internet's there. I feel it's definitely positively and negatively affected me and my practice, but hopefully in the future I cannot have such severe anxiety about being on the internet because I didn't used to, so hopefully I can get back there.
I'm thinking. I think the internet is super important, especially to the pieces that I made for this show. I use like a lot of these weird sites like Pokemon Online, like is in one of the videos. Like another one I did was like Omegle. I love like those like I don't know, like things that are not really like Instagram or Facebook and stuff, because I feel like it was weird. I had like a bunch of real conversations with people on this Pokemon game. Like, you know, it's like when I was growing up playing like RuneScape, MapleStory, like it was lame, and now it's kind of like trending. So it's kind of like cool, but it's very much like how I think, at least like for me, I grew up, because it's almost like we didn't have the internet like during childhood, and then it was like a boom, like an internet boom, probably when I was in like elementary school. So it was like a way for me to keep in contact with people, and I think that's important. But I think now as an artist, it's a struggle to like keep your art from like being Instagram art versus like this is a real work of art. And I think I struggle with that every day, because I don't really post on social media like that. Like I think that because I think if I were to, I would be making work for that instead of for myself. So I think it's really like a push and pull. I think it's great, especially being like queer and like Muslim. Like there was no other way my parents were gonna let me meet people. Like I met my girlfriend on Tinder. Like you know, so it definitely is like positive, but I think having that balance is really important, and it's hard to find. Yeah.
I've been on the internet like for too long, I think. I mean, my parents are both educators and artists, but my mom like worked in the board of ed when I was growing up. So I think, she was in like a technology field. So we had computers like in the house, and she does like a lot of technological artwork. And so, like, we had the internet in the house when I was, like, a kid. Like, I was, like, just grew up with it. And it was just kind of like the Wild West of the internet in the early days. And then it became this other thing. You know, I was on Neopets and stuff. That was lit. And, like, Gaia Online. And because I was, that's just, like, what I wanted to do. And I'm, like, kind of reserved. I'd be, like, extra sometimes. But, like, so it was, like, I would be, like, online. I'd, you know, not so much like meet people. I would just be like escaping just like the stuff that I had to do. I was like, excuse me. I guess that's my punishment for procrastinating so much. But yeah, no, I was online all the time, and so it just, I guess in like 2000, I was on MySpace, and that was like I was just learning how to do like HTML and stuff. So like everything, I kind of just like learned a lot being on there, and I started showing my work a lot through there. I guess when I was in college, like I was always posting my stuff that I did kind of as like my profile pictures and just using it as decoration for my pages. But then I don't know, I started posting on like Facebook in college, like my artwork while I was in art school. And just seeing the difference in between like the likes and the comments and what people were saying in critique was really interesting. And I started kind of doing it more for like the likes and the comments instead of the critique. I mean, it was mostly white people in my class anyway, so you know what the fuck they was talking about. But it was really funny. Let's be real. But so I feel like the art that I make it sort of like is for the internet, because that's how I experience a lot of the art that I see anyway, like, because it's just like, it's also hard for me to like get out and like go places. So I consume so much just like scrolling, and so I think that's just like the mindset I usually have. Also, it's just easier to like just show GIFs and stuff online. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, I have to get like screens, or I have to like show it at a projector. So I think at this moment, maybe I'm like, not so much, I think I'm trying to leave social media. I'm not so much trying to leave the internet, and that a lot of what it is now, it's like, it seems like that's the same thing, because like that's just like how we've been on it, and that's scary. But yeah, no, I don't need to talk to so many people. I'm kidding. I love that I've been able to be connected with so many people, and it has influenced my work a lot, because there's people sharing ideas like all the time, just like talking and like saying stuff, and it's just like that does influence what you do, for good or for bad. But yeah, the internet has just influenced like almost everything that I've done, I think.
Yeah. I've had my Instagram for like 5 years now, so I've definitely been on the internet for a really long time. And even before that, like Twitter and then Tumblr, and then like deleting my Tumblr and my Twitter because I was way too honest on that. And then like now on Instagram, it's like, it's too much shit to delete, so just...
And then you can't go to the front. You can't just jump to the...
You just all those posts, they're forever. No, but I think that my relationship to the internet has been that I've treated it as a diary, for better or worse. I think I can't help but be honest, despite the fact that I hate myself for being honest. So it's just kind of this weird push and pull where it's kind of like, I have to get everything off my chest, but at the same time, I'm like really ashamed of it. So it's kind of like, I'm like constantly cringing as I do everything that I do. And I've been cringing for years now. But I think for me, it's served as an interesting, I think the reason why I can continue to be honest is because I've always seen it as a diary. In the beginning, I saw it as a space for me to document what it is that I'm doing, whether it's just a selfie, whether it's just me documenting the way my skin's looking, like trying out different skincare routines, whether it's me documenting my like progress with like making art and like trying to get better at drawing or just anything. So that's the way that I saw it, and I still continue to see it. And I think then through doing that for as long as I have, and then like having people interact with that, it's created kind of a community, and like that's been an interesting experience in terms of like seeing the things that you do and you can't help but do affect other people positively, and coming from a place where a couple years ago, you would post something about self-love or self-care or whatever, and everybody would like shit on you, and then all of a sudden now it's like that is supported, which is like an amazing shift, but it's just like, a couple years ago no one was there with you kind of thing. So it's just interesting, you see the way that it changes and it moves, and the way that it then changes the way you live your life, and which you're more comfortable like sharing and making. So it's an interesting, I've seen at least Instagram like change in so many different ways over the years, and I think it's very parallel to what's going on in people's mindsets and what's going on in a lot of the art I see, and it's interesting. I don't know. I just continue to share though, regardless of what's happening. I'm just like, here's a selfie. Just share it. Fuck. Yeah.
Cool. So, I have very specific questions for everyone. I'm gonna do a general question, and then I'm gonna do specific questions. So, basically, okay, so we're gonna talk about like safe spaces online, right? And I know that has like its pros and cons, and it's like a double-edged sword because the online world isn't always nice, but I do want to focus on like safe spaces. So specifically like for Jheyda, I know you're an Art Hole Collective curator, and then Cass, I know you said that also I did a short doc on Caseena, and she talked, so me and her, we got to know each other like back in like November. I was like literally like in her house like filming like so, and I know you said like you find safe spaces online, and you talked about how you kind of get to like play with different identities online and live in that way. So I would want to hear more about that. And then for RAFiA and Monica, you guys like really like put a lot of images of yourself online, and have a lot of images of like self-representation. So I just want to know more of like what is the purpose behind that, whether it's for you personally, it's for other people to see. What do you hope that those images are doing? And then I know Monica, you do, I consider them performance art. I don't know if you guys have seen like her page, but like you take the lipstick and you like put it on your body, and I really like love how it's like I'm getting to see like performance art online. Yeah, so if you guys could just talk about all that good stuff, I would love to hear.
Okay, yeah, I'm a part of Arho, and The way that came about is, like I said, no one liked me, so I went I went on Twitter, and like you said, safe spaces, my Twitter really became like my safe space. Like me and Simone, like we didn't meet on Twitter, but we both were like in the Inland Empire, and like we hung out and like talked on Twitter, and everyone had their Twitter and like had thousands of followers and just was like sharing their art. Yeah, and so it was like an escape, and it really became like my Twitter and like my Twitter community and all the people that I followed, and we followed each other for years up until I deleted my Twitter like this year because I was having crazy anxiety about the internet in total. We followed each other for years and years, and so it's like they became like a safe space for me and like really like a comfort until I started getting overwhelmed by just the amount of like thoughts and content and like all this stuff that is constantly being regurgitated through Twitter and like just the internet in general. And then with ArtHo, it went from like my Twitter and like me posting photos on my Twitter to like me joining ArtHo and kind of having to, instead of just curating my own Twitter and curating my own like online existence, I had to like expand and be more perceptive of an audience. I think that might have been what gave me anxiety, because it's just like having to be perceptive of an audience and like what people will like, because curating is like what I like, but also like what people will like, but in a way that doesn't compromise my own values, and in a way where I can like think about my audience and how something will be received, but also like think about the artist and the message that they are perceiving based on like what they're trying to say, and also the aesthetic value of the work. So I really started to think about like all these different layers and how like the work that we share has to retain like art, like artistic value, aesthetic value, value in meaning, and the ability to create a safe space for people. So the fact that we have to be sharing work that makes people feel comfortable, and that makes, even if it's just like a nice photo of a rose, like something that will make people feel safe, and like, but in the same vein, not compromising just a level of like, well, this is what's gonna be, you know what I mean? So
Also, what is ArtHo Collective for people?
ArtHo Collective, we're like an online gallery and community organization and an art collective, and we do kind of a bit of stuff. We like have art shows, and we have workshops, panels, we talk to people, we all do like consulting stuff. So like some of the things you have seen that you don't know is our whole project. We do a bunch of stuff, but we really mainly just want to build a community, and for like queer artists of color to have a place, if not in their home or if not in their community, that they can like run away to. And like since the internet has been such a that space for me, like ArtHo like was just, I feel like it was a natural progression for me to become a member, because it was like I understand what it's like to be just like a queer black person in a community where no one likes you, like no one wants to talk to you. They find your secret profile and drag you. Like every crazy thing that could happen has happened to me. So it's like really ArtHo is just like the next step in like turning all of that like pain and hurt into something positive, and sharing the positive aspect of pain and hurt with other people so that they don't have to feel the same. And so it's like even if they're physically alone, they know like energetically, spiritually, mentally, they will never be alone, and they have community. Yeah.
Mic drop.
Wait, you wanted me to speak about
Living online.
living online? I don't know. I think like one of the pieces that I made for the show is called Piece of Me. So like half of it is kind of me being alone in my house, then the other half is like me being immersed in this online world, which is like the Pokemon game. But I think like I tried really hard to like, okay, I can't find this space in the real world, so like where can I look online? And I think I even like didn't know about my identity until like looking online, like what does it mean to be like a person of color and queer, because it's not like your family's talking about it. It's not like you have those conversations. And I literally thought that, like, I used, like, saying, like, QPOC or QWOC, like, I used to think those were, like, weird things, you know? But having, like, a community of other artists and people who, like, use these labels and terms, like, helped me feel better about myself. And I think, like, those online connections are great and, like, the research that you can do. But I think really, like, not being immersed in that completely and letting, like, an internet avatar or, like, a Facebook profile, like, be that this is who I am. And finding, like, small moments of peace, like, within your everyday is kind of how I found some, like, resolve. Like, so for me, that's, like, riding my bike or something, you know, like, simple. And I think, like, a lot of queer people and people of color, like, that's just what we go to. It's not even, like, about an identity thing, like, just people who don't know where else to go to. You're going to go to the internet. So I think that stuff is important. I think with my art, like, moving forward, I'm trying to make, like, a collective in which, like, we can make these different 4D works and talk about it online, maybe, if I can't meet up with someone in person. Like, I love the idea of, like, making videos with people who aren't with me right now, like, whether they're in, like, Texas, like, or they're, like, in another country. Like, I have friends who are just not with me. Sometimes I use, like, my videos and, like, different online platforms or, like, the stuff that I use in my videos, I kind of find that way to connect with them. So I guess that's, like, pretty much it. But I love, like, the unused spaces on the internet. That's not the Instagram, the Facebook, because I feel like we need our own platform in which to speak. Honestly, like, I just hate that, because I always feel, like, targeted when I'm posting, like, my opinion online. And sometimes I don't even think it's that, like, radical or revolutionary. I'm just saying, like, this is how I feel. But
Somebody else thought it was radical.
yeah, like, someone else was like, no, you can't say that. Like, it's crazy, because I actually looked on my Facebook settings, like, and they have you labeled as, like, your political affiliation, and everything is, like, categorized. So that has made me, like, really not want to be on the internet anymore. But I think there is an in-between. I think, like, that's just the way we communicate with one another. I think there just needs to be, like, different spaces in which we can do that. And I think that there are these spaces, like, I know, like, Bufu or, like, with Art Ho Collective, and then with the collective that I'm trying to make, it's all in good intentions, and it's by us, as opposed to it's being, like, engineered and controlled by, like, rich white people. Like, I don't want to contribute to that. But that's kind of how I feel about safe spaces on the internet. I think, like, we're making those spaces now, and it should be, like, credited, you know? Like, there are always going to be fallacies in that, but I think there are real communities being built, like, online and then, like, in the real world, so.
Yeah, to bounce off of that a little bit, I've had to create just, like, so many different profiles at this point. I have a Facebook profile that's, like, only for Black and brown people, because I was just like, I gotten into so much trouble. Well, not trouble, but I've been blocked for, like, months at a time off Facebook for saying real shit, and I'm just like, it fucked my money up too, and I was really mad about that. So I mean, I just kind of learned to sort of just separate, and then it got really crowded because, like, on Facebook, it's like, oh, let me add this person, I worked with this person, let me add them. So now all your stuff is mixed up, unless you have your, like, you know, you have to put them in your list. But, like, for somebody who already had, like, thousands of friends, like, it was too late. Like, it was just like, I can't just, like, sit there and go through and make a list. So, because, like, I had professional contacts on there, I had people I went to middle school, elementary school with. They got my family on there, which I had a family list, so that was, like, cool. But, so now I just have a whole new page. And I'm just like, that's why I just be talking. And the other one is kind of just like, I'm going to just use this for promo. Nah, fuck y'all lost your privileges. So lost this one privilege of being able to see. So, I mean, it's been cool. It's been really cool, actually. It's been, like, a lot more sort of calming. I'm just trying to, like, figure out, just sort of, like, navigate the internet because it keeps changing, which I guess it would naturally. But the question for us was, like, using ourselves in our work.
Like, why do you use like, I see in your art, you use, like, a lot of images of your face, of your body and stuff.
Because I'm always there. I don't have to call me up to see where I'm at.
Like, RAFia's name is all over this. Like,
Yeah.
like, why? Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, like, people were calling it, like, oh, you've turned it yourself into a brand and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I didn't even, like, intend for that to happen. It was just I started putting my name on all of this stuff just so, like, because it goes on the internet. And somebody be like, oh, I like this picture. Let me send it to my friend. And it's like they won't even, like, intentionally steal it, or if they do, but, like, it'll just be, like, out in the world. As soon as you put it online, it's just out there. And then somebody could just send it, and then they send it, and then they send it, and then they post it on Instagram with a poem under it and be like, I don't know who this artist is, but, which has happened to me. Somebody, like, tagged me in a picture of me that I took with a whole poem under it, and it was like cool or whatever, but it was just like, I don't know who the artist is, and I'm like, that's me, but so not, and it's just like slowly, like through like different things that have happened, like I've had somebody like literally take like a picture of me on the train, like without telling me, and then I found out like a year later after the thing was painted, like a big ass painting of this picture that this person took and put in a gallery at like Smith College, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was right, and then okay, so here's what happened. Somebody at Smith like immediately was like, is this you? Because it was obviously me. It had like pink hair, and it was like, it was so weird. And I was on this train, and I was like, I was definitely coming from like therapy. I could have been in like some mood or whatever. Like I knew exactly where I was at, and I was just like, that's crazy. Didn't even talk to me at all. Like I'd never met this person. And so like and then just like different things like that happening, and just like, nah, I'm gonna just put my name on everything, and it's just easier for people to like remember like who it is without me having to say anything. You know, like I would prefer not to have to talk. I mean, after a while, like for my work being online a bunch of times and like seeing the same sort of like imagery, people be like, oh, like people who know me be like, oh, that's you or whatever. But it's just like, it's just so I don't have to like keep being, like, you know, just the internet. It just gets out there. Or if like somebody takes a picture of it, they send it to their friend. They're just like, oh, who is that? It says it right there. But it gets to the point where people don't realize that that's who like the artist is. They just think it's like a word that's all over the thing. Because I've had my name like plastered all over it, and somebody was like, who is this? I'm like, never, forget it. So I mean, that was just kind of like to help me. But I do use my imagery. That's just like me use my name, but my face, I'm always there. I can like, I don't have to call up the model, see what I had, do scheduling for that. And that's kind of what I do, like a lot of stuff myself. Like I write and I like produce music and I like do all of this stuff and I like photograph. You know, it's just like I don't have to call somebody up. And it's just like so, it's because I just be like all over the place. I'm like I never know what I'm gonna be doing. Also, I like looking at myself, but like there's more mirrors in my house than windows, and that's just kind of like how I grew up. There's a giant mirror in my living room, and so that's like my selfie mirror before I leave the house. I need to check myself, and I'm always checking myself, and then I take pictures sometimes because you don't know what you look like. You can look in the mirror, but like if somebody takes a picture of you, that's completely different. So I just feel like I'm always like checking myself. So I just have this kind of like backlog of images that I sometimes will put up, or I use like the flash to see how my makeup's doing, because the flash is a whole different thing. It's a whole different story. I don't know if y'all know about that flashback. It's real. But also just like I grew up taking pictures of myself as sort of like diaristic and just like wanting to know like where I was at, like literally like just mentally just like wanting to know like what's going on, because a lot of times like you be sitting there and you just be feeling stuff you don't really know, understand, but to take a picture and like look at your face or like see how you're like holding yourself, you can sort of like write a whole different way of like how you're feeling based on like your body language, and that was like a way for me to track how that's going on. And so there's social media has had to sort of mess that up because other people were watching, and I'm just like, and I forgot, you know, I forget about that, and I like, but that's how I originally was sort of using it for like Tumblr and all of that stuff, because it puts it in the archive and you could just go back and look at it. And on Instagram, you can sort of scroll through and like see, okay, I was doing this at this time, I was doing this at this time, and it's just really like sort of grounding for me. But yeah, I do also like to share that stuff. I'm trying to find that middle ground where it's just like, nah, stop talking so much, but also look at this cool ass thing that I did, you know. So that's why I use myself.
Okay. Wait, what was the question?
Why do you put images of yourself also in your work and online? And then I just want to ask about like your performances online.
Okay, I guess similarly to RAFiA, just kind of like the whole, I have access to myself at all times. I think I also feel uncomfortable putting other people into whatever narratives I'm creating, because I think when it's about me, I can turn myself into whatever I want. I don't feel comfortable using someone else's image, even if they're a close friend, for the most part, and putting them into my work because I might want to do something else with it, and they might not be comfortable with that. So I think within myself, I can always transform myself into anything I want to be. And I think within sharing myself for like all the time, I think that has to do with trying to feel like a real human being, in the sense of, I guess I disassociate. I forget that I exist. I forget that I am a living, breathing human being, and I think that has to do with the way that I tend to experience like trauma. I tend to kind of like ignore everything. So I think you take a selfie of yourself crying and you're like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like this weird thing where you see yourself doing something and you're like, this is what's happening, and that might be really a bad way to cope, but I think that kind of was grounding, because then I would share that and then people would also relate to it, and then that would kind of be an affirmation that you're not alone. And then at the same time, you then create this space for someone else to find that comfort. So it's this back and forth where you're finding what you need and someone else is finding what they need. And I think that's been an interesting experience in terms of sharing images. Like it essentially started with me wanting to treat it. I think I was making art, and I was working retail, and I was wearing a lot of makeup, and people were complimenting me more on my face than on my art. So I stopped wearing makeup. There's nothing wrong with it, but I was just kind of like tired of it. So then I had really bad acne at the time, and then that for me was like a really crazy experience to share that, because I was so self-conscious about it. So like trying to dismantle that kind of way of perceiving myself and trying to share me in like, I guess, my most raw form, kind of trying to strip everything away to start at the bottom, so then if I wanted to add more, I could, was really interesting. And then it was kind of something where it's like, okay, I know what I look like, you can't tell me shit. Just essentially that. And then finding people that are just like, oh my God, you're so strong for that. And for me, it wasn't even about being strong, it was just kind of like, before I go outside looking like this, I want to show you that I know that I look like this. And then doing that, just kind of just to see it, just basically to see it. I think that's why I did it. And then I think within the whole sort of performative things that I tend to do, I think it's, I don't know, I feel very at peace when I am doing certain videos, when I am essentially smearing paint all over my body, whenever essentially I'm moving and recording it. I think it gives me control over myself. It allows me to be free, to say fuck you to everyone and to everyone that's ever thought anything about me, and it allows me to portray myself in such a, I think I'm very composed in real life, so I think to, I don't know, allow myself to be extra in this sort of social media world allows me to feel kind of like this super being, if that makes sense. These are really weird things to talk about. So it's just kind of a lot of that, just trying to make sense of things and to cope with things and to feel like a real human being. And yeah, I guess my relationships to social media is different because I feel real when I'm on social media. I feel not understood when I'm in the real world, if that makes sense. Because I feel like people don't really see you. And they see many different facades, but I feel like on social media I can say all the things that I'm feeling, whether you understand it or not. It doesn't matter. I don't have to give you anything. You can like it, you can not like it. Doesn't matter. But yeah.
Yeah. Just like coming from a personal point of view, it's just like when I do see like other women of color like represent themselves online unapologetically, like that rubs off on me, and then I feel like it comes like the reaction is like a domino effect. Like I'll see you like doing a performance and I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put on this outfit, I'm gonna feel myself today because she's feeling herself.
It's
and like
liberating. I think that's what it comes down to. That's why it's weird to capture into words. It's literally throwing your body across the room, and what does that feel like? Like I think we live as women of color, as just human beings in such like a construct, and we have to move, and we have to like move in a certain way, and we are constantly being watched. So to be in control of the way I'm being perceived makes me feel empowered. Like I am in charge of what I post. That's it. Like I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I feel that. So a big thing I've been thinking about is like accessibility, and accessibility to art. And because everyone's work like lives online and through the virtual world, it's just like so much more accessible for our communities to see it and enjoy it, because especially if you come from a low-income community, or you may be younger and your parents have not introduced you to the art world, I think many could find it easy to resort to seeing art online. And also a lot of people may not have the money to jump on a train and go to a gallery, or jump on a train and spend another $18 at the friggin' Whitney Museum. And it's just like, it is like a conversation about like accessibility to art, and I just like applaud you guys for having some of your work live online. So I just want to just get into like accessibility. Have you guys thought about that in your work? Is that also a moving factor as to why you have some of your work live online? Is that and I know for Caseena, I know you talked about accessibility to video art, and introducing that to your community. So yeah, this question just goes to everyone. Yeah, anyone?
I think accessibility is really important, just because being in a community where people have like readily available access to everything that they would want and are still not happy, but then moving into spaces where people are very comfortable in having very little and like so happy, but then like deserving so much. And I just like, it made me really like think about like what it is that we value, and like what it is that makes a community. And so I think like accessibility, especially accessibility to art, is so important, because there's no reason why everyone shouldn't be able to like document themselves, and like there's no reason why everyone shouldn't be able to like paint a photo, to like, I don't know, like go outside and like pick a leaf and like Mod Podge it to a canvas if they want to. Like there's no reason why, because especially in communities of color, it benefits people so greatly, and art is such a healing tool, and I've used it so much to heal. And like you said, you represent yourself online as a place to heal, and like since I'm not like very comfortable online, I like am really big about like, I like started getting really into self-portraiture like maybe last year. And so I feel like there's a portion of our artworks that are inaccessible if we're not representing ourselves, but I also feel like the accessibility of ourselves as people and as humans, and not as like lofty, like, oh, this is like an artist, like I'll never talk to them, like I could never be like that, like they're so successful, like they don't have any problems, it's so wrong. And like, I don't know, I just think accessibility is so important, and everyone should have the accessibility to make art, everyone should have the accessibility to see art, everyone should have, and I think especially the accessibility to art, like all of the art that we create, is representation. And if people don't have accessibility to representation, they may never see themselves being able to do anything beyond what is in the scope of their everyday lives. And for someone who is not privileged like me, that could be just this block. That could be just the bodega at the corner, their school with no funding. That could be literally anything. And they deserve the accessibility to express themselves about how they feel about that. Because there's so many people who are so content, or so many people who are in such pain due to their circumstance, and regardless of how they feel, they should have the accessibility to speak about it, and to have another sort of language to communicate all these different feelings and all these different expressions, and just not having accessibility just snatches that away and just makes everything impossible and everything. Literally, art is just expressing yourselves. Why should people not be allowed to express themselves? So it's like accessibility is number one for me. Yeah, Art is like, we really try and make things accessible, and like we work with a lot of DIY spaces because we want kids to come. We want the kids that live in the projects. We want the kids whose parents are homophobic. We want everyone to be able to come. And if you have an event that's $45, I can't even go to that. I'm like, an open call for photography, that's $50. The only people that can submit to that are privileged people. Because I don't have the money to take $30 out of, like, I have bills to pay. I can't just snatch $30 and be like, oh, I'm going to submit to this contest, which I probably won't win because they're going to want some white person that they can, like, brand, and then I'm just going to waste my money, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Things need to be more accessible. We need to figure out a way to get art back in all the schools, and I don't even know where I'm going. I'm on a tangent.
Speaking facts.
I think the like little thing fell out.
Wait. We got it.
I mean, there's a lot to say about that. Like going off of that, I feel like when I like first entered art school, I felt so alienated and isolated because I was around all these people who like for their whole lives like went to art school, but I was coming from like Brooklyn Tech, which is like, okay, I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, it was like so I think it was like 2 people from that school like went to my school now, which is Parsons, and it was odd for me because I was jumping around between like, do I want to do illustration, do I want to do graphic design, and I was trying to figure out which will make me enough money to like prove to my parents that this is a career for me, and until like my friend told me like, hey, I don't think you should be a graphic designer, like, you should probably try doing, like, illustration, or, hey, you should really try doing video art. Like, I got that push, and honestly, the only thing I've really learned in college is, like, to have confidence in myself and my work. And I think that's something that I can bring to other people, but also I think it's something that everyone should get the opportunity to do. Like, I would never have made like these videos if I had not gone to college for it, and I think that's so wrong because I pay so much money for that, and it's not worth it, because all I'm really learning is kind of, I feel like there are a lot of people in art school who like are coming from privileged backgrounds and they kind of are lost in like the conceptual side. Like they don't have any experience or struggle to build on, I guess. And for me, like I had all the concepts and everything, but I just didn't have the tools. And I think for a lot of my friends who are from New York and they love art, they don't have those tools, but they definitely have like the best like ideas, you know, like on my work too, or like in things that they do. And they just don't think art is a viable career. Like I didn't think it was either. Like I just was like, okay, I can't do that. Because of my parents or the situation I grew up around. And I just think it's not fair because it's not true. I think like there's tons of opportunities like for artists and we just like don't know about them almost because it's kept within these like small circles. So I think like with what I'm trying to do, I think I'm making video art and I like really want it to be online, like on a website, almost like this is my outstretched hand, like, to you. Like, how do you want to respond to this? Do you want to collaborate with me? Do you want to talk to me? Like, I'm here. And every time I present my work or if I have an event, like, for Crave More BK, which is the collective I'm part of, and then the project I'm starting to work on, which is called Spicy Films, I want, like, everyone to feel comfortable there. Because some of my friends, like, they feel really intimidated going into a gallery. Like, I still feel intimidated going into these spaces because you feel like you have to act a certain way, and that's not true. And also, like, most of these, like, openings are free, but we don't know about that because it's kind of not talked about because they don't want us there. And I just want to start to make events and, like, collaborations, whether that's online or, like, in physical spaces. Like, thankfully, like, I have this space, you know, and we all have this space, but it's not the majority of what the art world looks like, sadly. And I think it needs to be more accessible because, like, honestly, all of the works that I've seen in this show and, like, most of the works I see from people of color, like queer people and everyone else, like, in between, I feel like is so much more stronger than some of these works I see in galleries that have no concept behind them. It's just purely technical. And that's the part that, like, really annoys me. Because it's like, why are these people, like, allowed to have these technical skills and my friends who are really struggling to express themselves, they can't, including myself. Like, I still struggle to find, like, I find myself saying, like, oh, is this really what I want to do? Because if you don't have that support, you're going to constantly doubt yourself until you reach a point where you're okay with yourself to say, like, this is my work. And I would just, like, love to give people that confidence. And also, I think I try to use, like, maybe, like, not the highest grade, like, DSLR camera, or I'll use, like, a GoPro to make my videos, or, like, literally my iPhone, which, like, again, not everyone has access to, but at least to show people that, like, you can at least use these things that maybe you already have. Or maybe it's, like, $50 versus, like, a $2,000 camera to make a video. Like, it's possible. So I really try to find, like, more of those kind of options when I'm making my videos, like, specifically. Because I think it speaks more to the community than if I'm, like, filming this high-grade video and it's, like, seems totally, like, out there. But yeah, I think all in all, like, I think it should be more accessible because we have such amazing stories and, like, need this way to, for me, like, I need this way to express myself. And I think it makes me sad that so many of my friends, like, I see them as artists, but maybe they don't see themselves that way. Like, it really hurts because I'm like, wow, you have such, like, great ideas, but they're like, oh, well, I don't want to be an artist because I want to get a real job, or, you know, it sucks. It's not true either. It's, like, a lie that we're told. And I don't know. So I think, like, having these community spaces really helps, like, just on the basis of, like, building self-confidence, but also confidence as an artist. Yeah.
True to all of that. Some facts being spit tonight. But yeah, no, accessibility is a huge thing for me in general. As I said, like, sometimes, like, I won't, like, go out to certain things. Like, I'll get out. I didn't come to the opening. I tried. I almost made it. I was, like, almost there, but I was like, damn, it's going to be another hour. Another hour's going to be 9. So I was like, okay. But I've got, like, various different types of, like, anxieties, and, like, depending on the day, like, I'm physically just not going to be there. So accessibility is a huge thing for me. I don't even like walking up in these galleries sometimes. Not this one specifically. This one's really cute. But, like, you know, you go to these places, and it's just like the people that be in there make the space also.
They huddle up in their little groups with the wine, and then they're like, yo, can I talk to you guys too?
So they've started putting away their liquor in Chelsea though. So them like the big place, like they'll put it in the back for their people. Cause I used to do that. I used to be like, I'm gonna just walk, I'm gonna drink their wine, they can stare all they want. I'm gonna be up in your spot. Cause I be showing up looking a little weird sometimes, cause I forget that I be looking a certain way. Like, I forget that that some people, like, see this as weird. Not so much at art spaces, but, like, I had these, like, big, like, alien glasses, and I walked up in there, and they was just looking at me, and I was like, what are they looking at? And I, like, opened up my front face of camera, and I was like, oh. Right. But yeah, I actually had my first solo show was in the Mokata, like Mokata's in Brooklyn, and it was in the window gallery, and so a lot of people were just able to, like, see that. They was on their way to Target, they was on their way to the train station or whatever, and there was, like, a lot of people that, like, knew me because it was my neighborhood, and they would, oh snap, I saw your work, but they wasn't gonna go inside Mokata for nothing, like, because that just wasn't in their sphere of, like, where they was going. And so and it was up for a long time, and I was like, I love that, because they were just able to see that without, having to interrupt their path or, like, go, plan the whole day around going to see my work. They would just see it, and so that made that really accessible. Like, I felt really good about that. Being online, it's accessible to the people who have internet, which is lit. So I'm just, like, again, it's like, be friends who may not be into that weird art shit, but they like to see it like a nice picture, you know, whatever. So like it's just a lot of people just like see me doing me, just being online, and I kind of like not being sort of interruptive, but like interrupting, like just on a whim, kind of like not like a scheduled thing that somebody has to go out of their way to do. I'm trying to like make it like easy to be all up in your face. So that's what accessibility is for me. Also, some of these like physical spaces just be like physically hard to get to, and I'm just like just thinking of all these different ways that I could just like help you see what I be up to, like what I be doing, you know. So yeah, that's what accessibility is for me.
I think for me, I think it's just a matter of, I think planting a seed in a sense, because I feel like I interact with so many different types of people. I'm someone that went to college, but I went to public college, so I got an art degree education, but at a much lower price than most people. But then I'm surrounded by people that didn't go to school, that didn't go to college. I'm surrounded by people that didn't finish high school. Mm-hmm. But within their own worlds, they're finding their own success. So I think it doesn't matter what route you take, I think there's something for you. And I think right now more than ever, you can find your way and you can find your audience and you can find some sort of living throughout it in one way or another, whether it's right now or in a couple of years, you'll get your shit in order. But I think at the same time, not everyone has that experience growing up in terms of being told that they can do everything they want to do. For me, realizing I can do everything I wanted to do came from being told I couldn't do shit. So it was just kind of like, nah, I'm gonna do it. Like having parents that didn't support me with what I wanted to do, to the point that now they have to support me, because I was just kind of like, all right, no, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And that, comes with its own struggles, which, every time I come across someone whose parents understand what they're doing with their art, like my inner adolescent cries. I'm just like, how? Like so uncomfortable and happy and sad at the same time. It's really weird. But I think at the same time, all it takes is that one weird uncle, or that one song you heard, or that one movie you saw, or that one thing you saw in the middle of the street that made you realize that this space that you're in now, you could be in it, you can love it, but you can also do so much more and you can give back to it. And I think not everyone has that experience. So with the arts being cut and stuff like that, I think that's really, I was always fortunate enough to go to I always went to public school, but smaller schools where professors, and they were new schools too, so the teachers and stuff were still a little more excited to teach you things, so I always got kind of that experience. So it's just kind of oh, you want to do art? Okay, let's do it. Versus maybe a couple years down the line, it's all right, you want to do art? I don't have the resources for it. I'm so sorry, I'm not about to go out of my way, which I also respect, because it's teachers aren't being paid enough to do the most. So I think our role right now as creatives, as young creatives, as creatives of colors, as queer creatives, as any type of creative, is to go out there and show that it is absolutely possible in whatever way that it can be. I think that's something that I totally forget, the impact that we are all having, because I think I try to live in my own world, and I still have a lot of weird resentment and a lot of self-hatred over the way I was raised. So then when I come to the opening, for example, and hearing certain things, it's just oh my God, you inspire me, and I'm just how? I'm still living in this weird world where nothing I'm doing is coming together, but it actually is. So having to catch up to that is its own story. But I think with accessibility, I think as long as we continue showing, and it's hard at the same time too, because when you're at the forefront of whatever war you're trying to fight, that's also difficult, because you might not find people that understand, and you might not find your people that are there to fight with you. I remember within even just speaking about things that made me insecure, like body hair. I remember one time I was just kind of feeling insecure. I YouTube everything, all advice I YouTubed body hair. My video came up talking about it. I was fuck, it's up to me. This interview I did, I was literally, if I want confidence, it's up to me. Not everybody has that shit. So it's just kind of we're in a position where we have to, if we have the strength to do it, we have to do it all the way, because there's so many kids out there that don't have shit, that don't have parents that understand, that don't got friends that understand. I'm very privileged to be surrounded by people that get it. I went to France, I was hanging out with this one girl that took me in. her and her friends are doing amazing things, her and her 2 friends. All of the partners that they're with, all the people that they meet tell them they're doing the craziest, weirdest shit, that all their music sucks, that all their videos suck. And I'm looking at this and I'm just like, this shit is amazing. I don't understand what you're saying, but I get it. And it's like crazy because it's like, you know, if they let that get to them, they won't continue making the work they're making. And then you're losing on some amazing talent out of like, you know, brown girls out in Paris. Like, I'm just like, how are y'all doing that there? It's like, but that shit could be easily like turned down because nobody gets it. So it's like, we have such an amazing community. So I think we have to continue building up on it. And like, I don't know, it's hard, but like take a couple punches so it's easier for kids that are literally like a year to 10 years younger than us. So they can at least do it and do it much faster and much easier and in much better mental state than we are. Because I think, you know, we're kind of breaking down walls. Yeah. And I think that can be hard and that can be traumatizing and it's hard to undo a lot of that, but it's important, you know.
I like cry. I'll get some wine now. I didn't get to drink. But yeah, so I just want to open it up to the floor to anyone who has questions. I just have one more question, but does anyone have questions? Okay, all right, I'm going to ask this one question. So, yeah, what are goals? What are goals for the future, just as an artist?
I'd probably say one of my biggest goals.
Wait, like, imagine like a utopia, like no barriers.
If I could do anything, I would be in the Whitney Permanent Collection. I would have a solo show at MoMA PS1. I would be in the real MoMA because they don't have no people of color. They don't have not a single black woman in their permanent collection. I would make a video for King Cruel because I'm obsessed. And Beyonce, obviously, hit all the big marks, and then retire in Cuba and open a photo studio, and that's what I want to do.
I can't follow up with that. I'm thinking, honestly, my goal is literally just to make a piece of work that I'm like completely content with, like immediate goal, because I'm always like nitpicking something. And I think like long term, I would love like for my collective to like really actually be able to give people resources, you know, like I want to have like the funding to do that kind of stuff. And I also want to see my work in a space that's where it's not going to be like commodified. And I can still be successful as a person. And I think that's it.
Also, what is your collective? Do you want to talk about it?
Okay, so I basically have a collective. It's called Crave More BK. It kind of started as like we were just making T-shirts like for queer and trans people of color, by queer and trans people of color. Like literally the shirts are all like screen printed by us too. And I made all the designs. And then now I think like the smaller project that's coming out of it is like Spicy Films, which is the event I'm having next week. It's next week. Let me just like quick promos next week, April 13th, so it's the Friday from 6:30 to 9:30.
It's Friday the 13th.
Oh no! Wow,
that's real spicy.
I didn't even think about that.
The most poppin' day of the night.
During the retrograde.
Damn! Stop.
I didn't know about that.
Damn. But it's gonna be like a bunch of literally like 15 artists, and they're either like queer or of color, and like mainly like from New York, which is really cool. And yeah, like that pretty much that is kind of like the thing I'm working on, which is kind of a like smaller project that's just based around like making video art and like film more accessible. And I think by having like the screening and like everything, like people can come and see like, well, what is like the extent of performance and video, because I think all those things are melding into one another, and it's being done by like our community, in my opinion. Like I don't keep mentioning, but like Brockhampton, like their stuff is kind of like performance, but it's film, it's video, it's music. Like that's the kind of work that I'm seeing a lot of my friends do, and I really want to like showcase that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, what question did I miss? I had to take a pee break.
What are goals? Just like as an artist, like imagine like there's no barriers, like you can get what you want, like immediate goals, future goals.
Media goals?
Yeah.
Oh, immediate goals? I want free shit. I want people to send me stuff. I like that. Just because I'm tired of spending money. You know, that's real. But I guess I want more resources or whatever in terms of goals. But in terms of like things that I'm actually doing, I'm performing a lot more. I'm actually performing tomorrow. Y'all should come out to that. You can like look at my Instagram and see what that's about. But I mean, I sing and I do stuff. I like make music, and I've always been in the music. Like I started playing piano when I was 5. I had to beg my parents to give me lessons. So I was just doing that, but I was like doing classical piano, and like I don't know, it just fell off because it like wasn't really my thing. But it was my thing for like 12 years. I quit at 17. Like my parents finally let me quit. And I'm like, I love music. I love making music, and I love like pressing the keys and hearing sounds. But like since 2012, I've been like actually seriously making my own music, and it's been really cool. It's been like really like a whole thing for me. I was like, wow, this is like a new thing, and like making music videos and all sorts of stuff. So I'm trying to do a whole lot more of that because like there's still some people who don't know that I make music. Because I just like do so much visual art, and I'm just like always putting it. I've like always been doing that. But like when I was a kid, everybody knew that I played piano because that was like that was the thing that I did all the time. And so it's really funny. So I don't know. I'm just trying to like perform a lot more and just actually like be out there because it's like such a new thing for me, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm kind of good at it. So I mean, like we'll see how that goes. But that's definitely
This video at the Museum of Moving Images.
Oh yeah, I made a music.
Poppin'.
Thank you. I made a music video at the Museum of the Moving Image, and the way I was able to do that was because I had some work up at the time, and it was about to close. Like my the installation was about to be like the next person. It was a series of artists in the Giphy Arts, Museum of the Moving Image installation called the GIF Elevator. And it was really cool because it was just like 4 different screens within the elevator, like just the public elevator that people took. And they were just like another thing about like accessibility. Yeah, you had to go to the museum, but it was kind of just like it was just in the elevator. You just go in, and the people who worked there had to see it every day. And like they loved it. They liked my stuff. So there was one panel on the ceiling, and I thought that was really dope. So I was like, yeah, can I come in and like document my work? And I did that, and then we just like was in there for a couple hours, just like shooting video all over the like the ground floor wherever we could access at the time. And so I have a whole music video of that, and the track is like if you go on my Instagram, it's like in the bio, it's all of that. Link in bio, hit me up. But so just. I'm trying to do way more music videos because like I love that shit. I love it. It's so much fun just to like see something come out of it. Like I love moving visuals and stuff, and I'm just trying to like merge it with the music that I make because people either know my music, or they know like my visual art, and like so I'm just trying to like squeeze them two together so they these two people can meet. So that's what I'm up to right now.
Goals. I don't know. I think I just want to continue making work. I think I'm, especially at the scale that I paint, I can't just lay in bed and like make a whole painting, especially because I use oil. So I think I'm always just thinking about how I can continue making work. So I just recently sent in my application for a studio, and hopefully I can move in halfway through the month. So that's as far as I'm thinking right now in terms of my goals. But just paint more, make more, maybe get into other stuff, maybe accept the fact that I also do enjoy photography and video and actually own up to it and make it and enjoy it. Just stuff like that. I want to be able to just be more comfortable. I think living in New York is extremely difficult financially. I have the privilege of being able to still live with my parents, so I can pay for studio space, but it's, you just live with your parents, and you're an adult type thing. So it's one of those things where it's like, I will never be able to be fully independent as long as I'm living here. So it's like, what else is there out there? So I think I'm just trying to figure out a lot of that kind of shit. And travel more, make more, make money, eat good food, meet good people. I don't know. stuff like that. Yeah, just lots of food, eat all the food. I don't know, just be happy. I think I'm always someone that's very unsatisfied with where I'm at in life. Just find some sort of contentment and some sort of flow that I can be easily into. I don't like change. I'm very habitual. So getting back into a nice flow would be nice. And live my life.
All right, anyone questions?
I have a question about censorship on Instagram. Like, I know you guys spoke about the influence on. I kind of just wanted to see. I don't know if anyone includes their body in their art or how deep it is with that or the meaning. But I was kind of curious as to how you guys deal with the censorship on Instagram and how they kind of don't let you. I mean, it's Instagram's free. They give you that, but they don't let you go deeper into your art, anything that you kind of want to do, whether it's nudity or just certain things you say. So I kind of wanted to know how you guys deal with that and include that in your art. Sure.
I'll take this one. But yeah, I mean, that's where a lot of my work was initially. I don't use Tumblr for my artwork as much. I kind of just share from Instagram. But it was also high school kids would be finding my work, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I probably saw my asshole or something, some weird it wouldn't. So I taught a teen class at MoMA one time, and it was during the last thing when the teens was yo, I saw your work on bodyanxiety.com, and I was like, dang, my whole pussy's on that. And I was like, thanks, for the compliments that they gave me, but it was just so I just think about that and just how that could impact maybe jobs or something like that. So I don't even put so much nudity up online anymore. I never really did that much. It was mostly just nipples, which they will take down in a second. So I mean, with Instagram, I'll kind of put little emojis on them or whatever. That's kind of just how I deal with it and getting around with that. Yeah, Tumblr's still out here. I don't know, with all the new laws and stuff being passed, I don't even know where you can even post anything. So I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. It's being censored from the top down. It's not even just the websites, but.
I don't really post any nudity or anything on. I do a lot of I said, I kind of got into self-portraiture, and I do some kind of almost naked photos of me, but I'm if y'all want to see some nudity, buy my book. Right. Buy a print. Yeah, I'll send it to you if you want. Pay me, and then you'll get that exclusive content. Check my website. I don't know. Yeah, censorship is really bad, and it's just annoying because a lot of the things that I revolve my of the reason that I don't post that much on Instagram, because a lot of the things that I want my work to revolve around is having to do with being very honest, at least my documentary photography, and it's just my life, and having to self-reflect on intimacy and the different ways that I was raised perpetuate different things in my romantic relationships or in my friendships. And so a lot of that is sexuality, the act of having sex. I'm working on this thing around bedrooms and who comes into my bedroom, and a lot of that is there's probably gonna be nudity because it's my bedroom, and that is the whole point. But it's if you can't share something on Instagram, then it's just not meant to be there. I feel that's why I don't even try and push it. I don't even put emojis or anything, because I'm it's gonna taint the image. It's just not gonna read the same. So I don't know. That's why I'm glad for spaces like this where I could bring it in, not be censored, and feel valid. Yes.
I think within selfie culture gives way to new poses that are interesting. So you find different ways to contort your body to still just live by the guidelines, but not. So I think that's really interesting in terms of the way it changes our body language digitally. And yeah, I think it makes a new form of creativity in the way of self-representation, because a lot of content is made specifically to live on Instagram. So it's just kind of like, oh, cool, you got a whole line of like angels across your butt crack. That works. That is beautiful. Or like, wow, you are doing a back bend to hide like something crazy. It works. So I think in that sense, it's kind of humorous. It's kind of fucked up, but oh no, I don't even bother. I think there's people that like post stuff just to have it taken off to then make a point about it, and I'm just like, it's gonna get taken off regardless of whether, and I'd rather not get my page deleted, so I'm not even gonna bother. But there's people that do it, and that's part of their practice too. Just kind of like, oh, that's all I got right now.
I agree. There are people that do that.
Yeah.
Specifically white girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want to feel. I'm not gonna.
We could talk about that.
I'm like, let me not. But
And then
they want to feel the struggle.
Yeah. Funding
They
about
make
their
a whole book
project.
about it.
They make a whole.
And they ask you to submit work.
That's true.
I think about that email.
Okay, so my question is, has the current sort of like political situation that we've been living in for a year plus, has it influenced your work? And in what way? And has it made it, what effect has that had on the way that people respond to your work? And of course, that's not to say that life for queer people of color was sunshine and rainbows before this administration, because it wasn't. But I'm just looking to see, like, you know, has it influenced your work and in what ways?
I'm gonna go first if you guys don't mind. I think for me personally, it has really influenced me because my mom is Mexican, and because Donald Trump's like xenophobic sentiments are like directly like targeted at Mexican people and not like just the general Latinx community. So it's really made me see like, and it's like my dad's like a financial person, so he's really about money and like people that make money. So at first he was like, oh, Maria, like you're tripping, Donald Trump isn't racist, he's just trying to make money, like I'm on his team. And my mom like was like, I don't love you, like I hate you. And so and so it's really like influenced me, and just I've like it's reached every like aspect of my life. But I think that this administration has honestly like pushed me forward, because before all this happened, I think right now, since it's so much like negativity, it's creating a resurgence in Black and brown like self-representation and Black and brown like self-empowerment, and like all of us having to represent ourselves in a way that is self-reflective but also empowering to our community. So I feel like it's definitely pushed me in more of a space where I am trying to look at myself objectively, but trying to present myself in a way where I would feel like I am making other like Mexican and like Guyanese and Caribbean, Latinx people proud, whatever. But in the same vein, it's also like created that same like self-empowerment has created a place for me to fit in, like into something that's like popular. Like when I was a little bit younger, I would take so many photos and like be a part of all this stuff, and no one would really care. And someone told me once, they were like, oh, the way I gained followers is I started posting photos of myself. But being that I was like fat and like I live way a lot less now than I used to, and like I was fat, I was queer, I was like Black, and like I'm mixed, but I'm too dark to some people to be mixed. So it's like I didn't really have a space to be like, well, this is like what I am, and like I'm just gonna represent myself. So I feel like now in this new administration, in this time period, we see so many like fat body and like positive Instagrammers who are like actually like fat and not just like, oh, like I'm Ashley Graham, like I have a big butt and like big boobs, like I'm curvy, like. And we see people who like are differently shaped, differently abled, different mind processes, different everything, and we see them and we are accepting towards them. So I feel like this like new age, even though it's been terrible, one of my uncles got deported, like a bunch of bad stuff has happened, it's influenced me in a way where I feel like my own self-expression has the power to be revolutionary and has the power to be popular, but still to interact with people in a way that touches them very truthfully deep down, because I'm just trying to like be real, you know?
Yeah, like I totally like agree. I think this has like pushed my work so much, which is sad. Like this didn't need to happen. But I remember like after the election happened, I like would have like gone crazy if I didn't have like this professor, Basira Khan. She's just like a fine artist who's Muslim and she's queer and like it's just great. But we were working together and also had class, and I was just so sad. Like, I was like, I cannot make work right now. Like, I'm trying to, like, process everything and make work at the same time, and it's not working. And I was like, should I just take everything down because I feel really targeted right now? And she was like, well, sure, like, you can take all your work down, but you're going to be targeted either way. Like, I can hide, like, all I want. I'll still look this way when I walk outside. Like, I'll still be gay, like, you know? So I think it really pushed me to be like, well, since that's, like, established, you know, like, I have no other option than to make work that I actually care about and think is, like, making a difference. Like, I don't have time to, like, bullshit anymore. And I think that in that way it really pushed me. Honestly, like, I started making videos after the election, pretty much. I think, yeah, it was pretty much like after the election. So a lot of the work that I have made and have been making is been influenced by that. But yeah, it's like really hard, I think, because it made me like really rethink my whole practice. Because like literally before this, I was making t-shirts. It was more like brand-y. And I was sort of like giving into this like capitalist system because I thought that's just what I had to do. And then after the election happened, I was like, well, no, I need to take like bigger steps. I need to like use my privilege like to do something, because I do have certain privileges. Like, you know, I'm in art school, like I have access to these spaces in certain communities. And people with so much less than me were doing so much that I was like, you know, it's like a wake-up call. And it shouldn't have been a wake-up call. It should have been something I was doing the whole time, but that was the situation. I think the work that I make now has a lot more weight and pressure, and that is a bad thing, but a good thing as well, because I think people now can relate a lot more to it. And yeah, like, I don't know what else to say, but that's how I feel.
Well, I'd say I've been having like this sort of like public falling out with interacting with white people for a while, and just like being frustrated with the like tone of their output on political issues on Facebook and stuff like that. Oh no, like this is how the stuff is going on, and then like Donald Trump got elected, like right before he got elected, they were just like, oh, this could never happen, blah, 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 he's not going to get, and we were just like, he's going to get elected. Like, hey, y'all playing around too much, he's going to get it, and then he got elected, and then every white person on my field was like, oh no, what are we going to do? Da, da, da. We don't know what to do, and I was like, you know, and I was like, I had a cold that day, and I was just like sick in bed. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, here's something tangible you could do to help. You can send me $20 so I can Postmates myself some like soup and NyQuil, and you can like better this country or whatever. And so like I've already been kind of like harassing people, like even my friends. Like I've got tons of white friends. It's fine. So like 3 different people sent me the $15, $20 or whatever, and so I got my Postmates on, and then I was just like, well, I have like $40 left over, who's black or brown or whatever, and wants a meal, I could hit you up on Seamless, send you food or whatever. And then people were like, whoa, you really gonna do this? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm in bed, I'm not doing nothing, I'm just like sick. And I got this phone that I could just access the internet, it's chill, and so like, I like within like a couple of like weeks, I ended up raising like thousands of dollars, and I was like, fuck. And so I like I made a whole thing out of it. Which people ask me if that's like is part of my art practice. I made this whole program called Pay Black Time, and it was really kind of like exciting. I kind of made it into a job. I was like feeding myself off of that too. Every time I worked, I would send myself a meal. It was dope. I kind of miss it. Like, I don't do it so much because I, like, literally, I'm not, like, a service engine. So I was, like, it was only me. I sent, like, over 300, it was, like, 300 or 500 orders or something like that to people all over the U.S., not just, like, in my vicinity. So a lot of people from, like, Rochester or something like that. It was weird. It was, like, a lot of people. I guess they was really talking up there. Or they was really hungry or whatever the case was. So... It was really cool. So that was like, that came out of literally just like, I guess not so much the Donald Trump election, but just like the reactions I got, and people were like, I don't know what to do, and I gave them something to do, and they were so like, they felt so involved and empowered by being able to like, you know, contribute to something, and I sort of like rode that, and just sort of just like, I ended up actually, between, it was what, November that happened, so November to, I will say like January or whatever, whenever the end of the year was, the end of the winter, I ended up raising like $9,000 and like just gave it all away, you know, just to Black and brown people. I just sort of like sent it all away because I was like, what, you know, that's what it was there for. So that's what came out of that, and that was a cool thing, and I still like use that practice. The whole point of that was to just get people to be individually like complicit in reparations. Like, you're not just gonna wait for the state to like, oh, we gotta send $1 billion to the Black people. So I was like, nah, y'all have these privileges that you were born with. So it's up to you individually to like give your resources, you know, run your shit, like basically. So I put that into my other practices as well still, and I still be trying to run people for their money, because like, I put up so much like genius stuff for free, and they be in my inboxes like, oh, thank you for posting, and and I'm like, thank me in dollars, please. So that's my answer to that.
I don't know. For me, Donald Trump just kind of was like a reaffirmation that this is all like a weird fucking bullshit reality, and then I could do whatever the fuck I want, because if he's president, then what the fuck is happening? And I think just within that, it was a weird thing where for the first time I saw a lot of the people around me get into politics, and including myself. And then out of that came a realization of the certain things that are going on and the actual powers that we have, because I feel like in a way we're very powerless, but at the same time we have so much power, and it's because we're not taught about these things that we don't really realize what we can and can't do. But I think just in a very simple manner, I was just kind of like, if he can do that, I can literally do anything. There's absolutely no excuses for me, because if he's gonna, like, it's just like, you know, if I'm gonna do something as simple, like honestly as simple as be an artist, like he's here running the fucking country and essentially the world, like I can make a painting. I can wake up, get out of bed, go to the studio, make a painting. Like, so just looking at it from like that, I was just kind of like, I'm gonna fucking do it. Like, it's just like, he cannot get away with that, and I'm gonna be here fucking sulking all day. Because there's definitely validity in that. I did a lot of that, but it was just kind of like, I woke up one day and I was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna fucking manifest and like get out of this weird glitch in the matrix that we're all in. Like, I'm still like confused. I wake up confused and I go to bed confused. All right.
Any other questions? Yes.
I think you guys have all been pretty positive about the internet, and I'm much older than many people in the room, so I have like this love-hate relationship with it, because I grew up without it, and I think that was great. So as an artist, do you think the internet has diluted what an artist is today?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Do you think the internet has diluted what an artist is today? Because clearly there's a lot of talent in this room, but then you're on the web and there's people who think they're artists, or they say they're artists, and they have people following them and paying attention to them and paying for them, like, how does that make you feel? And how do you grow long-term in this new environment, right? Because how do you reach success today as an artist? Like before, it was like, oh, we're just gonna look for gallery representation, and I don't think that's a path anymore.
Yeah, I think.
Definition of success.
I think, as an adult, I think it has to, you have to be able to make a living. You have to, just like, I think, Monica, you're great, but you want to be able to live on your own, and you want to have those experiences that feed your art, right? So your art has to be able to pay the way for you at a certain, like, I went to tech, and tech crushed me being an artist, so I salute you. You still have that, but I think, you guys are in a very tough place, and, I want to see everyone be successful. So, like, how do you feel in this new internet world where it's still tough, even if you have exposure, it's still a challenge?
I think it depends on your priorities. So I think half of the whole everybody can kind of be an artist now, I appreciate it from the perspective of accessibility. So people that didn't even know they could be artists, they are going to post stuff and they're going to call themselves an artist, whether that means next year they're going to not be an artist, they're going to be something else. So I think in that sense it's kind of beautiful. And I think for me that doesn't matter from the perspective of that I'm here for the longevity of it. So I'm thinking about the future, and I'm thinking about whether or not I can sustain myself off of this 20, 30, 40 years, I'm still doing it. And I was doing it off of the internet, I'm still doing it on the internet. The internet, like Instagram and all this stuff is still here, I'm still doing it. So I think that's the way that I perceive it. And within finding success in it, I think what matters for me is actually making work and productivity and being self-critical and not necessarily giving into the way in which your work is going to be well received, especially the bigger the following you have. You're going to have your people that are like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that's amazing, but I think within yourself you have to have certain standards and be able to be ambitious in your own way and make as much work as you possibly can. And I don't know, like, I think also for me, I don't just paint, I also have a whole day jobs. I just, I'm a barista. I work 5 days a week, so that's how I continue to paint. So it's just kind of like, I'm gonna find a way to do it regardless of what's happening, and I'm always gonna put it first. Now, that might not be the case in a couple of years. Who knows, I might get pregnant, I might have a kid, then that comes first, but it's just like, I'm taking it day by day, and it's like, a gallery picks me up, that's awesome, guy doesn't pick me up, I'm still painting. I don't know, it's idealistic, but I think I'm very practical and I'm very focused, I think hopefully that then lends to a form of stability and success. And if it doesn't, then shit, I'm still doing it. I think art, a lot of people, it comes to sacrifice. And I think a lot of it can be really beautiful, but I think a lot of it is sacrificing. I'm not necessarily the best person in the relationship. I'm not necessarily the best daughter because I'm putting my art first. I'm kind of a piece of shit in many aspects, but it's because you love what you do and you're going to do it regardless. So it's just that's the reality you got to be willing to face. And that's not everyone's reality. That's not the only way to approach art, but that's how I approach it. I don't know.
I just want to say people have been fake artists for many, many years before the internet. I think we just see a lot more of them because it's they're all on the internet. I mean, that might be the only thing I have to say. Just people have been fake artists, but it's also, I wouldn't necessarily, I think the internet has diluted a lot of things, or it has enforced a lot of things, or enhanced a lot of things. It's changed a lot. I kind of wish I had grown up without the internet sometimes. I mean, I kind of did a little bit, but not really. I was on it very early. But yeah, I don't know. I just think, I feel like people should be able to experiment with their various identities, including being an artist. without the A and L. No, I'm just not even gonna make that joke. But I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say is people gonna be fake, or regardless of what's out and what platforms they have, or even not even just being fake. They just like might not know what's what yet, or it's just gonna. It all depends on like who's the ones giving them funding to be, to be that thing that they are. Why is it that they are the ones getting, shine or whatever? So that might even be a larger question of like, what's up with these curators and stuff, Shout out Kiara.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like when I see like Instagram artists who I maybe don't like respect, or like I think that it's like really trendy, or like I don't even know, like I'm trying to think of an example, like the one where like people mix like paint colors together, or like slime. Like I follow it though, like the thing is like I consume that stuff, so I can't even like be a hater, because like we all watch it. But I think that's their art practice. In terms of like my art practice, I don't feel like I want to have that like Instagram presence necessarily, because I've tried that before and I feel like I really get down on myself. Like it's just me, because I'm like, oh my God, I don't look enough like an artist, or my art is not good enough for this platform. And I feel like if that's not working, then you will find another way to like make your work. Like maybe my art isn't going to be my form of income, and that means like I can have my work be free, or like I don't have to have a price tag on it, and that can be its separate thing. Or it could be the other way where it's like, well, this is my form of income, and you have to deal with the consequences of that, which is like naming a price on your work. Like even for the work in this show, like it was the first time I priced my work. And it was like, oh, wow, like, yeah, like, it's hard. Like, you put time and energy. Like, I don't even think about that in my head when I'm making. And I think as I get out of college, it will be more in my head, because it becomes more real. So I don't feel like I have a good answer. But I think the internet can be good. And I think if you're using it right, like, to a certain extent, and you have, like, certain rules with yourself, and, like, it's not making you feel bad. But for me, my family like will definitely see my stuff if I put it on the internet, so I can't. And I've really like got down on myself for that, but I realized like there's other ways for me to show my work. I mean, I have it on like Vimeo, or I'll like post a screenshot or something. But like the real way that it lives is like when I screen it or show it to people, and I think there's value in that also. It really just depends on like the person. Like I can't hate on an Instagram artist who has like 100K followers and people paying them like awesome. You know what I mean? Like I can't hate on that. That's great. But I just don't want to do that for myself. And I think that's like it really just depends on the person and like how you feel about yourself in relation to the internet. Yeah.
I think most of the people on the internet who are fake artists are white people. I think really genuinely, back to accessibility, people of color, the majority of people of color do not have accessibility to art as it is, so I don't think like the majority, the 99.9% of people of color are out here being fake artists because they don't have the money. Like, the way that money flows does not flow into the pockets of people of color naturally. So I feel like a lot of these fake artists or like people that make like the same doo-doo ass work is just white people because they have room, and a lot of what constitutes them being allowed to be like artists.
You can do it.
Yeah, people look at them and they see someone who is beautiful, who is acceptable, who is white, who is skinny, who is everything, and then they will be like, oh, you have money to buy a camera? Perfect. Like, let Kendall Jenner shoot this editorial because she knows what she's doing, right? Because she's like Kendall Jenner, right? Like, she's just like an artist, right? Like, so I think like really the people who are like these fake artists are like people who have accessibility and they have money to waste and they have boredom instead of like, and that's why I think accessibility is so important, because it's taking art out of like, it's always been like this though. It's always been like Jeff Koons. He makes giant blow-up toys, like,
he's from Wall Street. He knows how to.
Yeah, he's from Wall Street. Like, he's not even like an artist per se, but he gets to call himself an artist because he has accessibility to millions of dollars, where he can just call someone up and be like, hey, make me a giant stuffed animal, and then people will be like, wow, like, that's incredible. Because people like things that are sensational, and people like things that they can sensationalize. So if you make a giant piece of art, no one is going to ignore it. And like, that is basically what he does, because he's a white man, and that's what white people do. They just like make something that can be sensationalized so that it can be clickbait, so that it can be regurgitated like this, like this, like this, and make something that will catch headlines. And they know in themselves, they're like, oh, I'm not just an artist because I am also skinny and pretty and tall and white, so I can also be a model, which will help me in my art career. And then it just all like, it gets, and then they're like, oh, I'm also an actor and I sing. and so white people can do that because people, when they say they're something, they accept them. Like, I don't even call myself an artist most of the time because I just feel weird and like anxious. So it's like there's no reason for us to be feeling these ways when there's literally like, I just was like, I wanted to start painting, and like I used to draw all the time, but then I stopped because I was like, I'm a photographer. And then I thought to myself one day, I was like, oh, but the thing is, like, white dudes, they just like do whatever they want. Like, they could just like Jackson Pollock and like throw paint at a wall, and like people will be like, this is incredible, this is fire.
You're a founding father of the South.
Yeah, you're a founding father. Like, let's make an art history class based on you.
Like, so you know, I'm crying through this whole contemporary art history course, and through the whole, I study art history at NYU, and that's all I freaking studied, so.
It's a mess. And so then I thought about that, and I was like, I could do whatever I want. And like, my parents aren't really supportive. Like you said, posting my art on the internet has gotten me in so much trouble with them. Like, they're like, why are you posting naked photos? Why is there a photo of you kissing a girl? Are you gay? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yes, but yeah, and so it's like, really, I think being successful, like, I have such a lofty definition of what being successful is because my parents are immigrants, and so like they came here, and my dad like came here for school, and my mom like had to sneak into our country. So it's like, to be put in a position where I can see the two inverses of success, and like half of my family is like, they don't speak English, they work like hard jobs, they do physical labor, and then the other half of my family went to Harvard, like is all like, ho, Donald Trump is not that bad, like, and so it's put me in a place where I'm like, oh yeah, like I have these huge goals, who knows if they'll ever be accomplished, but like, I also realize like the reality of a situation, and like I do struggle because they don't like support me because they don't agree with art. So it's like I do struggle, but at times I feel like the universe, if I am being real to myself and I'm like, okay, I have to go spend $20 to get the paint for this, but I need that $20 to pay my phone. Like, I always am just like, okay, but like the universe will provide, and then the $20 will come back. So always. And so I think we just need to have faith in ourselves, and we need to trust whatever it is that we believe in, science, God, Allah, whoever, and trust in ourselves and the inner God within, and we will always be okay. No matter how bad the situation, like, as long as like we are physically and mentally okay, like I think that there's a possibility to like turn around any situation. And I don't know, maybe that's just me being like optimistic. But that's what I think.
To build up off of that, and also to close, because yes, we have some things to do. But I think what you were trying to touch on too is just like money, right? And then I think also like the older generations, and like also like our parents, and like they always question what we're doing in art because they don't see the money coming out of it yet, because it's coming, right? We have to believe, right? So yes, I see it, like it's falling from the sky, like it's pouring. But I think it's like for us, and even for me, like my mom she didn't believe in me when I started like curating. And then, but for me, it's just like, I already feel the success, because success for me is like, you know, this whole room filled up of people from my community for the opening reception. And I feel fine. I'm like, yeah. But then my mom's like, so you're not getting paid? You're not successful. But also in terms of money, it's like, we have a lot like relearning to do, just like as Black people, as people from I come from a low income community, and how we look at art and where we spend our money, you know. And I try to talk to this about this to like my community, my friends, my parents, like people from my family. It's just like we have to start learning to spend money in our community, whether that means in art or I don't know. That's just the thing. Like money is always gonna be a thing, and we just have to start learning. Like if we spend money, if we stop spending money on Jordans, you know, we can spend it somewhere else. We can spend it on art. We can support an artist. We can support someone in a community. We could support a gallery. You know, like we just have to. It's a lot of relearning, and that's gonna take time, and it's a process, but it's gonna happen, right? Because we believe. So yeah, and on that note, we're gonna close off. Just for the sake of this recording, I don't know if we said our names.
Yeah, we know.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did. Okay, well, I'm Kiara, just so you know. And this is gonna be on SoundCloud, so you could catch this on SoundCloud. Shout out to Sunday, who's gonna be. He's the one who's facilitating this recording and having this documented. Because at the end of the day, even in the art history world, if something is documented, that makes it more legit. It makes it live longer. People could use this for research because we're all going to be freaking popping. And next thing you know, like students are going to be writing essays on us. So, yes. So shout out for that. What's the next program again?
The next program is Caseena's film screening.
Okay, and then that's on the 13th, Friday. Here, yes.
6:30 to 9:30.
6:30 to 9:30, so come through for that. Follow Bronxartspace on Instagram. Everything's on there. Another thing is money. I would like, ideally, for some people to drop a little dollar in that jar over there. I just want to start like getting people to just like support the space. I've been volunteering here for like a year, and I just really love this space, and so I want to start teaching people like, you know, we have to support these spaces, because next thing you know, like hopefully this doesn't happen, but gentrification is a thing, and we just need to support. Yeah, it's happening. Yeah, but you know, we just need to support them while we have it. So yeah, definitely support. The jars up there. So Stephanie has a little survey.
Yeah, I have a brief announcement. So Bronxartspace, we recently joined up with 4 other local nonprofits in the Bronx and Harlem, and we've been coming together, really thinking about how we could better advocate for the artists that we present in our spaces and we support. So we put together this survey, and it just asks, for all the artists, all the creatives in the room, it just asks a few questions about where you've received funding in the past, and what are the top issues that you face as an artist, and whether you're willing to participate in any future brainstorming sessions about how to increase funding. So this is really helpful for Bronxartspace and for Enfoco and Prida and RAFiA, all of these organizations, because this information we can then go to our elected officials with and say, we really do have a need, and there is a large inequity, cultural inequity about where funds are going. So I encourage you to fill this out, and I will distribute it.
Cool. All right. Hey. Signing out. Could everyone say bye to the SoundCloud?
Bye.
Yo, we in this. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's mingle and sign surveys.
Is it possible I can get a picture of everyone?
Oh yeah, sure.
Can we stand?